I never thought I'd be the kind of person who got involved in something like this. If you had told me 6 months ago that I'd even be tempted to cross that line, I would have laughed it off. But things never happen all at once. They creep up on you, like a whisper you don't realize you're listening to until it's the only thing you hear. It started like nothing. Just a favor. My best friend, Claire, needed someone to watch her son on Saturday afternoons while she picked up weekend shifts at the hospital. I wasn't doing much. Working remotely, no serious relationship, no real obligations. Saying yes was the easiest thing in the world. Claire and I had known each other since college. She was one of the few people I still kept in regular contact with. I knew her husband, Ryan, in that casual way you know a friend's spouse. Polite, distant. Always friendly in group settings, but we'd never really had a conversation beyond, "Hey, how's work?" and "Thanks for the wine." The first few weekends were simple. I'd show up around noon, Claire would rush out in scrubs with a coffee in hand, and I'd spend the day with Ethan, their 4-year-old. He was easy. Sweet, funny, a little wild, but manageable. Most of the time, Ryan was either out running errands or upstairs working in his office. One Saturday, Claire asked if I could come by a little earlier. She'd double-booked something and needed to leave the house by 9 a.m. I agreed, no big deal. When I arrived, Ryan was still in pajama pants, making breakfast. Claire was half-dressed, brushing her teeth while shouting instructions about Ethan's snacks. The whole house felt chaotic in a very domestic, cozy way. It made me feel strange, like I'd walked into someone else's life and it somehow fit better than my own. Ryan handed me a mug of coffee and said, "Thanks for helping out. You're seriously saving our asses." I smiled, said it was nothing. It wasn't the words that stood out, it was the way he said them. Not flirty, exactly. Just warm. Like I was part of something, not just a bystander. That morning, he stuck around longer than usual. Made pancakes. Offered me one. We talked more than we ever had before. He asked about my work, mentioned a book he'd read that he thought I'd like. It was normal light, but it lingered with me after he went upstairs. Over the next few weeks, things subtly shifted. Ryan started coming downstairs more often when I was there. Sometimes he'd sit with us while Ethan played. Other times he'd ask if I needed anything, water, snacks, anything at all. There was one Saturday when Ethan fell asleep on the couch next to me. I was scrolling on my phone when Ryan walked in, saw us, and paused. "You're really good with him," he said. "He talks about you all the time." I just nodded, not knowing what to say. It was the way he looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. I told myself it was nothing, just a man who appreciated the help. But I wasn't stupid. I noticed things. The way his eyes lingered too long sometimes. The way his tone softened when he talked to me. The way his compliments felt just slightly over the line of appropriate. Still, I ignored it. I'd been single for over a year, out of a toxic relationship that had left me a little raw and a lot lonely. Having someone, even someone off limits, notice me felt like a bomb. I didn't want to admit how much I craved that feeling. Then came the night Claire invited me to stay for dinner after babysitting. She got home late, exhausted, and insisted I join them for takeout. We ate around the kitchen island, the three of us joking and laughing while Ethan ran around the living room in his pajamas. It felt easy. Comfortable. Too comfortable. Later, while Claire put Ethan to bed, Ryan and I ended up on the back patio. He brought out 2 glasses of wine, even though I said I shouldn't. We talked about books, music, the kind of late-night ramble you fall into without realizing it. At one point, he said, "You know, you have this way of making things feel lighter." I didn't know how to respond to that. It felt too intimate, like he was saying something without saying it. And I didn't want to ask what he meant because I was afraid of the answer. After that, I started seeing the cracks in their marriage. Claire confided in me more. How tired she was. How Ryan didn't help out as much as she wanted. How she felt unseen. I listened, tried to be supportive, tried not to let her words validate the feelings I didn't want to admit were growing. One afternoon, while I was helping Ethan clean up his toys, Ryan came home early. He stood in the doorway, watching us. I looked up and smiled, but he didn't smile back right away. Just stared. Then, almost too quietly, said, "You look like you belong here." I froze. My heart thudded loud in my chest. It was a nothing comment. Completely innocent if you wanted it to be. But everything about his tone said it wasn't nothing. After he left the room, I had to sit down. My hands were shaking. I told myself to stop, that I had to pull back. But I didn't. I told myself I hadn't done anything wrong, that thoughts weren't actions, that nothing had happened. But I started showing up a little earlier, wearing slightly nicer outfits, laughing at his jokes more. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. And the worst part? I didn't want. After that day, the air between us was different. Neither of us acknowledged it out loud, but the shift was there, undeniable. He texted me the next day, a thank you for helping with Ethan. Simple, polite, but I stared at it longer than necessary before replying. The following Saturday, Claire had a longer shift and asked if I could stay into the evening. I agreed without hesitation, even though part of me knew I should have said no. That evening, after Ethan fell asleep, I found myself alone in the kitchen again. Ryan came down, offered me a drink like it was routine. I told him one wouldn't hurt. He leaned against the counter and asked how my week had been. We talked, laughed, let silence fill the gaps. There was nothing overt. No touches, no flirtatious lines. But it was there, the hum beneath everything. He looked at me like he wanted to say something more. When Claire called to check in, I felt guilty just hearing her voice. I handed the phone to Ryan and went to clean up the toys. But when I returned, he was still holding the phone, smiling in that same gentle way he used to smile at her in photos she used to post. Except now, it didn't feel like it belonged to her anymore. It felt borrowed. Temporary. The texts didn't stop after that. They were casual at first. Little comments. A meme. A song he thought I'd like. Then it became more specific. He remembered things I'd said in passing, about work stress, a book I was reading, a joke I'd made. He was attentive in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. Claire was oblivious. She was stretched thin, trying to balance everything. I could see it wearing her down, and that made everything worse because the more she pulled away from him, the more he seemed to lean into me. I kept telling myself I could control it, that I hadn't done anything wrong. But every time I walked through their front door, my pulse spiked. Every time Ryan looked at me, really looked, my stomach fluttered. I found myself checking my phone more often, smiling at his name lighting up the screen, ignoring the part of me that knew exactly where this was going. One Friday afternoon, Claire texted me last minute, emergency shift, could I come by? I was already out, dressed for the day in something nicer than usual. I said yes. When I arrived, Ryan answered the door. He looked at me differently. Not like a friend. Not even like a man noticing a woman. It was sharper than that. Focused. He offered to order dinner, said Ethan had already eaten. I agreed. We didn't talk much while we ate, but the silence wasn't awkward. It was charged. When Ethan went to bed, I made a move to leave, but Ryan stopped me. Stay a little, he said. It's been a long week. It's nice having someone to talk to. I sat back down. He poured us both a drink. The conversation started slow, small things. Then it turned personal. He told me he and Claire hadn't been close lately, that she was always tired, distracted, disconnected, that he didn't feel like a husband anymore, just another item on her to-do list. I didn't know what to say. I knew those were things Claire had told me too, in different words. Then he asked me something that caught me off guard. Do you ever feel invisible? I nodded before I even thought about it. There was a long pause, and when I looked up, he was already watching me. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't accidental. I looked away, heart racing. He didn't say anything else. Just sat there beside me, the silence stretching out like a dare. I left not long after that. Nothing had happened. No words, no touches. But I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the conversation in my head. The way he'd looked at me. The way I hadn't stopped him. The next day, he texted me. Sorry if that was weird last night. I didn't mean to put anything on you. I responded too quickly. It's okay. It wasn't weird. And just like that, it was open. A door neither of us had fully walked through yet, but one we'd both unlocked. I started noticing the way he'd find reasons to be near me. The way his hand would brush against mine when passing me something. The way his eyes lingered when I laughed. We didn't talk about it. We didn't have to. The tension did all the talking. I told myself to quit, to stop going, to make excuses. But I didn't. I started anticipating the days I'd see him. I wore lipstick again, did my hair, even though I pretended not to. I became someone I didn't recognize, someone I probably would have judged a year ago. Then one afternoon, I arrived to find only Ryan home. Claire was running late again, caught at work. Ethan was napping. Ryan looked tired, distracted. "You okay?" I asked. He shrugged. "Just everything's a lot lately." I nodded. "I know." He looked at me for a long time, then said, "It's strange. I feel like you see me more than she does." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The room felt too small. My heartbeat too loud. He took a step closer. Just one. Close enough to make his presence felt. Not enough to cross a line. But I wanted him to. And that scared me more than anything. That night, I couldn't eat. Couldn't think. I stared at my ceiling for hours. I wasn't the kind of person who broke up marriages, who betrayed friends, who confused attention for affection. But I was already too deep. The line hadn't been crossed, not technically. But I'd stepped so close to the edge, it wouldn't take much to fall. And the worst part? Some small, hidden part of me was already hoping I would point one. It happened on a Tuesday. Claire had asked me to stop by in the evening, so she could attend a parent-teacher meeting. Ryan answered the door. He looked surprised but not unhappy to see me. Ethan ran up, excited, and Ryan thanked me for coming last minute. I told myself this would be like every other time. I believed that for maybe 10 minutes. Ethan wanted to show me his drawing, and we sat on the floor together. Ryan watched from the kitchen, pretending to scroll his phone, but I could feel his eyes. When Ethan wandered off, Ryan came over and crouched beside me. He looked tired again. Tense. "She said she might be late," he muttered. I nodded. "That's okay." Neither of us moved. We sat like that for too long. Too quiet. Then he said, "Do you ever think about how easy it would be to disappear into something that feels good, even if it's wrong?" I didn't answer. He was staring at me. My chest was tight. I stood up quickly, trying to create space. He didn't follow. But the words didn't leave the room. They stayed, stuck to me. When Claire finally came home, I left immediately. Ryan didn't say anything when I passed him. He didn't need to. That night, he texted me, "I'm sorry. That was unfair." I didn't reply. 3 days later, he texted again, "I think about you more than I should." I stared at it for an hour before writing back, "Don't." He didn't respond. I was relieved and disappointed at the same time. A week passed without contact. Claire sent a casual message thanking me again, talking about how crazy things had been at work. Nothing seemed out of place. I thought maybe it would all settle, that the tension would just fade. But I underestimated what silence can do when something's been left unfinished. Another week went by. Then Claire texted again, asking if I could watch Ethan on Saturday. I hesitated, but said yes. It felt stupid, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could be normal, that I hadn't destroyed anything. When I got there, Claire was already gone. Ryan opened the door, and we both froze for half a second too long. Then he stepped back and said, "She got called in early. Didn't tell me you were coming." I nodded. Neither of us smiled. He poured himself coffee and went to his office. I stayed with Ethan, keeping my distance, pretending nothing was wrong. Around noon, Ethan fell asleep on the couch. I went to the kitchen, planning to text Claire and let her know everything was fine. Ryan walked in just as I picked up my phone. He didn't speak at first, just leaned against the counter. "Have you been okay?" he finally asked. I kept my eyes on my screen. "Fine," he sighed. I didn't mean to mess things up. I haven't felt like myself in a long time. I didn't want to hear it, but I let him talk. He spoke slowly, deliberately, about how disconnected things had been, about how he didn't know when his wife had stopped looking at him the way she used to, about how the house was full, but he felt empty. I stayed quiet. I didn't want to encourage him, but I didn't stop him either. Then he stepped closer. Not touching, just near. His voice dropped. I think about you when I shouldn't. I try not to, but I do. I could feel my hands trembling. You can't say things like that, I whispered. I know. I'm sorry. But he didn't move away. And I didn't either. The next thing I knew, his hand was on mine. Soft. Hesitant. But there. I didn't pull away. My breath caught. He leaned in, slow enough to stop if I wanted to. I didn't. Our lips touched. Barely. Once. Then again. Deeper. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't rushed. It was quiet. Careful. Like we both knew exactly how wrong it was but couldn't stop. I felt everything all at once. Guilt, heat, relief, shame. We broke apart suddenly, like we'd both remembered where we were. I stepped back, hand covering my mouth. He looked like he wanted to speak but didn't know what to say. I turned away, grabbed my bag, said I had to go. He didn't stop me. Outside, the air felt cold even though it was warm. I walked for blocks without direction. My chest ached. I wanted to cry and scream and run and go back all at once. He didn't text that night. Or the next. I didn't either. But 3 days later, it happened again. Another afternoon babysitting. Another quiet house. Another moment too long in the same room. This time, there were no words. No build-up. Just a glance, a step, and then we were kissing like we'd been waiting for it forever. Desperate. Hungry. The room blurred. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't planning. I just wanted. We ended up in the guest room. After, I stared at the ceiling, trying to feel something solid. He lay beside me, breathing slow, one hand resting on his chest like it was the only thing holding him together. I don't know what we're doing, he said softly. I didn't either. I felt empty and full at the same time. Like I'd crossed a line I could never come back from. I left before Claire got home. Didn't say goodbye. The next day, I deleted our messages. Turned off notifications. I couldn't look at my phone without my stomach flipping. He texted anyway. I don't regret it. But I know we can't do it again. I didn't respond. But we did. Once more the next week. And then again. It wasn't love. It wasn't even romance. It was a drowning man grabbing onto anything that felt like air. It was loneliness layered with guilt and want and the thrill of secrecy. It was dangerous. Addictive. And I hated myself for wanting it. Each time, we said it was the last. Each time we lied. Claire was still none the wiser. Still thanking me. Still trusting me. Every compliment she gave me made me want to disappear. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I wasn't thinking ahead. I wasn't thinking at all. Until the day I saw Ethan draw a picture of me and his dad holding hands. He was so proud. He said, "That's you and Daddy watching cartoons with me." Something in me cracked. I smiled and told him it was beautiful. But inside, I was crumbling. Because in his innocence, he saw something I had tried to keep buried. Something that could never be erased. I avoided their house after that. Ignored Claire's texts. Said I was busy, overwhelmed with work. She apologized, said she understood, said I could always lean on her too. Every message from her made my chest tighten. I didn't deserve her kindness. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror without thinking of what we did. What I'd let happen. Ryan didn't text me for days, and I was grateful. It gave me space to pretend like I could still be the person I was before. But that illusion broke quickly. Because guilt isn't something you can outrun. It finds you in the quiet. In the pauses. In the middle of a sentence when your voice catches. In the moment someone else mentions their trust in you, and you have to fake a smile. Eventually Claire called. Said she missed me. Said Ethan kept asking when I was coming back. Her voice was warm, like nothing had changed. And for her, nothing had. But I couldn't keep pretending. I told her I was dealing with something personal, and that I needed time. She offered to bring food over. I said no. That same night, Ryan showed up at my door. I didn't let him in. He stood there looking like he didn't know what to say. I asked him what he wanted. He didn't speak right away. Then he said, "I can't stop thinking about you." I told him to leave. He didn't argue, just nodded once and walked away. I cried after he left. Not because I missed him, but because I'd become someone I never wanted to be. Because I couldn't undo any of it. And because even then, some sick part of me still felt drawn to him. Still wanted him to turn around and come back. Weeks passed. I stopped hearing from both of them. Claire must have sensed something. Or maybe she just got tired of trying. The silence grew, and I let it. Until she called again. Her voice was different this time. Not angry, not accusing. Just quiet. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I braced myself. "Yeah. Are you okay?" The question caught me off guard. I expected confrontation. But there was only concern. "I'm fine," I lied. There was a long pause. "Ryan's been weird," she said. Distant. Cold. I didn't respond. "I feel like I'm losing both of you," she said next. "And I don't even know why." I almost told her then. It was right there, pressing on my tongue. But I didn't. I said I was sorry, that I didn't mean to pull away. That I was dealing with things I couldn't explain yet. She didn't push. She said she loved me, that I was family, and that she'd be here when I was ready. I hung up and sat in silence for hours. That night, Ryan texted again. "I think she knows." I didn't reply. He sent another. "I told her we should separate." I stared at that one the longest. I should have felt something. Relief, sadness, closure. But I felt numb. Because it wasn't romantic. It wasn't tragic. It was just a mess. Two people crossing a line they never should have approached. Two people who mistook chemistry for connection, attention for love. And one woman who trusted both of them and didn't deserve any of it. I never answered him. Not that night. Not the next. Eventually, the messages stopped. Claire didn't call again. Time passed slowly. I thought about reaching out. 100 times. But what could I say that wouldn't just cause more pain? That I was sorry? That I missed her? That I ruined something because I was lonely and weak? There's no apology for betrayal that doesn't sound hollow. So I stayed silent. I started rebuilding my life in pieces. Stopped going near their neighborhood. Threw away the sweater I'd once borrowed from their house. Deleted every photo that had Ryan's face in it. I tried to pretend like I was a stranger to all of it. Like I hadn't stood in the middle of something sacred and let it fall apart. I saw Claire once in a grocery store, months later. She was alone, looking tired. I ducked into another aisle before she could see me. Cowardly, but I wasn't ready. I don't think I'll ever be. Ryan never reached out again. I don't know if he and Claire worked things out, or if they really split. I didn't want to know. Some truths just don't help. What I do know is that infidelity doesn't start in bedsheets. It starts in looks held too long, in words that push past boundaries, in small betrayals you excuse as harmless. It grows in the quiet, in the cracks, in the loneliness we try to fill with the wrong people. And the worst part? It doesn't feel evil when it's happening. It feels warm, needed, human. That's what makes it so dangerous. It was never love. It was never a future. It was a moment I should have never stepped into, one I let consume me, and one I'll carry with me in pieces forever. I think about Claire sometimes. The way she trusted me. How she looked when she told me she was proud of the way I loved her son. I think about the version of me that existed before all of this. The one who would have protected her, who would have drawn a line and never crossed it. That version's gone. And what's left is someone who knows better. Someone who understands that some mistakes don't come with forgiveness. Only silence. And distance. And memory.